Good afternoon, my name is Nadia Martinez. I'm here on behalf of Martinez and Company. I'm a principal consultant, and I'm going to be in charge of introducing you to the program we're working on for Hammer Hardware to incursion into the Mexican market. So about me, I studied international business and trade at Richland College. I earned a diploma in international business at Cambridge, and then I did a BA at INSA in Barcelona, Spain in marketing and business. So going straight to the point, doing business in Mexico, that's going to be our goal. That's what we want to achieve. Hammer Hardware needs to do business in Mexico, and this is the strategy we're working on. So the Mexican demographics. Out of 119 million people, 55 million are economically active, which means they earn money, and they are going to be our clients. That's the people we're going to sell to. And as a curious thing about Mexicans, they are very price sensitive. So we would want to keep the prices in the market as low as possible, like great quality, but low prices, because they tend to purchase what's cheaper instead of what's, pricey. So the Mexican political system. Mexico is a republic, and there's like a tiny bit of a problem with the Mexican economy, which is corruption. The government tends to be really corrupted, and that's something that we wouldn't want Hammer Hardware to get hit by. So our idea is to keep the company as safe as possible, out of corruption, but more than from the government, I think that should come from the inner circle of the company. They should be really far away from the corruption that tends to grow in companies in Mexico. So I think that's just part of what the people inside the company's values are. So that's not going to be a big problem if the company stays true to their beliefs. The Mexican economic system. So Hammer Hardware is going to be part of the service sector. It already is, but in Mexico. And they're going to provide retail hardware products, but not specifically made by them. So they are just buying from other people. They're just commercializing. They buy from other companies, and then they sell those in their branches. So Mexico has a mixed economy, which means that economy is privately owned and state-owned. This would be private, of course. And the government has interference in the economic activity, which sometimes is good, sometimes it's not, but we're going to try to make the best out of it. And the leading industry in the country is the service sector, so that's a great start for Hammer, because 59.8% of the gross domestic product, it comes from that, as you can see in that chart over there. So this would be the service sector, and then agricultural sector is 3.6, this part here. And then industry sector is 36.6, this part here. So service sector is the biggest one, and that's where we're going to be with Hammer. So the Mexican legal system and government regulations. As I told you before, Mexico is a federal republic. So it's a federal government divided into executive, legislative, and judicial branches. And all products intended for retail sale in Mexico, well, this is more kind of a law. They have to be tagged with a label that's in Spanish, so you probably have seen that in the market. Products that come from abroad usually have tags in English, mostly in English, or Chinese or something. And then they paste the tag in Spanish because that's required by the government here to commercialize retail products. So the foreign direct investments in Mexico. So Mexico is open for foreign direct investment, and it has the 15th place in receivers. So we do receive a lot of money from outside as investments from companies from the private sector, and that chart shows you that over there. So the FDI in Mexico per sector is right here, and you can see over there manufacturing sector, that's the biggest one, then financial services, mining, electricity, transportation, and that's mostly how it is connected. So our currency, Mexican peso has been pretty volatile this last couple years, probably. It's been changing. It's not great for us as Mexicans, but for companies it tends to be good because prices go lower for them since they usually invest in dollars, and dollar is just keeps growing and growing. So that would be like a good thing for a foreign company because they would spend way less than they would if the peso was closer to the value of the dollar. The culture in the workplace. So Hispanic people is really warm. We tend to be really touchy, really happy, like people abroad don't usually hold hands or touch each other, definitely not in the workplace. So there's something that happens. People tend to ask you, how are you? Because they really want to know how you are. So this is something Hammer should get used to because people is going to be like that. They really care about personal relationships, even at work. It doesn't matter if it's like a lateral relationship. They just tend to be friendly all the time. So an advice we would give Hammer is not to interfere with that because people, it's really picky about this in Mexico. So it would make them work like a little bit less happy than they should. That wouldn't be good for a company. So environmental regulations. Mexico right now is working on reducing the country's footprint and combat climate change. So to help this, there's the General Law on Ecological Equilibrium and Environmental Protection that's been in Mexico since 1988. And this just wants to keep going with the water and air pollution help. They want to reduce that pollution as much as possible. So Hammer should keep that in mind. Since they're going to be using like government resources, the country's resources like water, electricity, that kind of thing, they should keep in mind that they have to stick with the regulations if they want to be part of the economic system. So Mexican hiring practices and minimum wage and labor unions. So the minimum wage right now in Mexico is 88.36 pesos, which would be like something around $4 per day. That's not great, not for the people in Mexico, but as a company, it's great because you can find cheap labor, which attracts investments. So for Hammer, it would be easy to find workers to do the mechanical part of the job for a way lower price than an American would or an European would. So trade policies. Mexico's international trade is growing real quick. We have a lot of trade agreements, as you can see in this map over here. So all these countries you see here, we have a trade agreement with. That's helpful, and on this particular case, we're working with the US since Hammer is an American company. So as you can see here, we do have a trade agreement with them. It's NAFTA, is working at the time, and that would be helpful, for taxes and all the payments we would have to incur as an importing company. And after all this data, I'm going to tell you the strategic decisions for our expansion success for Hammer. So, should Hammer enter the Mexican market? The answer to that is yes. Because, as I told you before, Hammer is entering a retail service that is one of the big industries right now in Mexico, so that's helpful. The currency right now works with dollars, at least from them to us. It's cheaper for them to invest here. We have a big market for retail products. We buy a lot of stuff, and according to the prices that sell for Hammer, we are going to work on that. So the prices are good for Mexicans. They would pay for that, and I think it's a great quality. So this would be a great expansion opportunity, not to mention that geographically it's great because we're not that far apart, so transportation would be easy and not too expensive. Timing and costs. The best moment to enter the Mexican market is the beginning of the year or after the country's elections. So the elections just passed. I would suggest January to begin, because we need to know what the new president is going to work with and how he's going to treat foreign investment. Just in case he wants to make any change, we would be aware of it. So, to the question if national market directly or regional markets, I would say regional markets, because the north part of Mexico has way more money, to say it in raw words, to purchase. So the purchase power in the north is way bigger than center and south Mexico. So I would start by that main area. That would be Nuevo León, maybe Tamaulipas. Those parts of the country are way more richer and open to new companies. The entry mode. We would suggest expansion project as exporters, because that would take risk away from Hammer. They wouldn't go like all in. If something fails, they could easily just go back and the loss would be way less than if they just go all the way in. So exporters would be a great first step, we believe. They can always grow to whatever they would like, however big they want to be. But exporting would be our goal right now. And acquisitions, the strategic alliance could work considering the kind of industry we're going to work with. So maybe making an alliance with stores like Home Depot or Lowe's that are already a big market in Mexico would work. Would make this transition easier, would be helpful for Hammer, and to take, a little bit of support from these big companies that already grew here. So that would definitely be an alliance they would need. And our conclusion is that the Mexican market provides great expansion opportunities to foreign enterprises, considering the support the government gives to them and considerably large amount of purchasing Mexicans do. So that will be a great opportunity for any kind of enterprise. This particular one would be better because of the kind of product. That's something we really buy here in Mexico, so that would definitely grow. And we would be so proud to help Hammer through this transition, to help them grow and expand their business the way they want to do it. And it would be amazing to work together. So that will be it. We hope you consider our offer, and thank you.